Good day. I'm David Callahan, and I'm the Republican candidate for Georgia's 13th Congressional District. I was born in a U.S. Army hospital in Nuremberg, Germany in 1951. My dad was a sergeant in the Army, and my mom had been in the Women's Army Corps. 11 months after my birth, our mom died from what they thought was leukemia. Our dad came back to the States and remarried. Eventually, my brother James and I went to live with our maternal grandparents, and later they adopted us. In 1957, we moved from Massachusetts to Tallahassee, Florida. My grandfather was a draftsman with the road department, and our grandmother was a homemaker with an 8th grade education. In 1962, our grandfather passed away, leaving our grandmother with 2 boys to raise on a small Social Security benefit. She soon enrolled in a vocational school and earned her high school diploma. She got a part-time church secretarial job to make ends meet. I remember receiving the Agriculture Department food boxes on several occasions. There was never any doubt that my brother and I would attend college. He took to it a little better than I did. After a rocky start at Florida State, a failed business venture, and an associate degree from the local community college, I finally earned a bachelor's degree from Florida A&M University. Soon after graduation from Florida A&M, I made the move to Atlanta in search of employment and managed to work from 1977 until 2011 in the printing industry. In 1987, I married, and my wife and I had 2 children, William and Kimberly. I did lots of dad stuff, coached soccer, volunteered at swim meets, and helped on Boy Scout camping trips. I served as a deacon and on the board at our church, and as secretary, treasurer, and pool chairman for our homeowners association. But by 2011, my wife and I had decided to divorce. Our son was finishing up at Auburn University, and Kim was at Georgia College and State University. I was working in East Point at the time and decided to buy a HUD foreclosure near my work. After making bids on several houses in the 5th District, I finally figured out how the HUD system worked and made a successful bid on a house in what I later learned is the 13th District. 3 weeks after buying the house, my company announced they would close our East Point printing plant. In 2014, I attended the Fulton County Republican mass meeting, where I met Louis Pittman. I helped in his campaign for Fulton County Superior Court Clerk. I attended the State Republican Convention in 2015 and was invited to serve on the nominating committee for the 13th District. I was disappointed that we didn't have any opposition to incumbent David Scott in 2014 or 2016. In any big decision, there are usually many things that lead up to a change in course. Despite the improvement in our economy and the job market, we still are in what I see as a very fractured country. In the aftermath of the Charleston church shooting and discussions among a small group at my church, I asked to spend some time with one of the black associate pastors. We met for about 90 minutes in his office as I tried to gain some understanding of what he felt and believed about the racial divide. The takeaway that I got from our meeting was a statement that he made which really shook me. He said that he considered slavery to be the original sin of America. This set me off on a search for more history on the practice of slavery worldwide, and I have concluded that his statement is not just wrong, but a lie of demonic proportion. Nevertheless, that is what he believes, and is what millions of not just African Americans believe, but what progressive socialists believe, teach, and promote. I want to go back in time to 1967 for a moment. It was a Friday night, and I was the last person to get on the band bus for an out-of-town football game. Sylvester Peoples had just become a member of the 2nd integrated class at our school, and he was already on the bus in the last available 2-person bench seat. As I looked all over in hopes that there was another place for me to sit, my face must have turned 20 shades of red at my embarrassment. Despite desegregation, many restrooms and water fountains still had the whites only and coloreds only signs above them. I don't remember if we found 2 sentences to share that evening, But over time, I learned that Sylvester, like the other Negro students that came to Rickards, were hoping to find what is now derisively referred to as white privilege. Sylvester just knew it as American opportunity, and he rightfully wanted to have access to it. Sylvester and I became pretty good friends, and I sponsored him as the first black member of the Junior Civitan Club at our school. This seems, looking back, like a hopeful time, despite the obvious divisions that remained among us, and especially among our parents. It is now 51 years since that band trip, and in many ways the racial divide seems more hopeless. Many of us hoped that the election of an African American president would bring healing to our division, but that only seems to have made it worse. The percentage of African Americans in poverty has not changed in 50 years, despite the many trillions of dollars wasted on the war on poverty. We know that conservative values and policies stimulate wealth, independence, and purpose, but half our society doesn't see the world this way. They say the rich don't pay their fair share, and the rich get richer while the poor get poorer. Many will say that the reason that so many people of color are in poverty is because of racism, without confronting the destructive behaviors and lifestyles of the chronically poor. We live in a society that promotes progressive socialism from the first day of kindergarten all the way through university. It is promoted in our media and by our government. The progressive socialist agenda relies on finding or making ever more people dependent on government and then making certain they vote. Such people are only valuable so long as they remain needy, and even more valuable if they're angry about their neediness. There is no incentive for progressive socialists to reduce poverty or government dependence. It is all they have to offer. Unlike the incumbent Democrat, David Scott, I will use every opportunity in the Congress to challenge and eliminate or reform programs that fail to uphold our laws, Constitution, and their functional purpose. Our welfare system provides financial incentives for family units without fathers present. That has to be changed. Fatherless males seek identity through male associations, often in destructive relationships, including gangs. Families with a father present are much less likely to be in poverty, and the children are far more likely to stay out of trouble, do well in school, and find success in life. When a politician announces that they are out to help folks that are living paycheck to paycheck, watch out. They are out to borrow more money from our children and grandchildren for more failed programs. Government needs to encourage its citizens to stop living paycheck to paycheck and instead to save and invest. That idea doesn't get much support from the banking lobby, which supports David Scott and his position on the Congressional Banking Committee. Churches in poor neighborhoods need to sponsor programs such as Dave Ramsey's Financial Peace University to help their congregations get out of and avoid debt, instead of pushing government to lure struggling people into yet more debt. Why do we have preachers driving around in luxury cars and flying in their luxury jets, and then complaining that the government doesn't do enough to help the poor? I support the sanctity of human life and will oppose any government funding for Planned Parenthood or abortions, and I support legislation to reduce the term for abortions in the U.S., as is the case in most European countries. I received the endorsement from Georgia Right to Life in this election. David Scott has voted to keep every form of abortion, including the most evil and barbaric partial birth abortion practice. I have gone into a number of jails and prisons in Georgia with the Bill Glass Behind the Walls ministry. We need faith-based programs to mentor and train men and women who have served their time and need a second chance at the American dream. An excellent example is Better Way Ministries in Sonoy, Georgia. Many of our schools in the district are not keeping pace with the educational and training needs of the job market. The public education system is failing to provide responsible, civically aware students and graduates capable of providing value in the workplace or in maintaining our republic. University is not the correct fit for every student. Many would be better served and financially better off with vocational training in high school. We need choice in our education system. The Department of Education should promote funding of school vouchers for private and parochial schools and away from failing government schools. Families should also have school choice if the government school is creating a hostile environment for the student. We must secure our borders and control immigration. Our services, and especially our schools, are overwhelmed with the influx of non-English speaking residents. We must secure our elections with voter ID. You can't see your doctor, board a plane, or buy cough medicine without a photo ID. The claim that voter ID suppresses legitimate voting is a specious claim which ignores voter fraud. I propose a national voter database which would not include how citizens vote or party affiliation, but only the precinct that they are registered in. Any duplicates would be flagged and referred back to the states. It would also flag registered voters who have died. I'm not a fan of the IRS, but this would be a good fit for that agency as we remove its role in health care. U.S. citizens should not have taxes withheld from their pay before being offered the opportunity to register to vote. I will introduce legislation to amend the motor voter law to do exactly that. When elected, I will join forces with the members of the Freedom Caucus in Congress, who I see as the body with real solutions for responsible, honest, and fair government. My Democrat opponent has been in Congress for 16 years and has sponsored 5 bills that became law. 2 of those were to rename post offices in the district. One was to encourage display of the American flag on Father's Day. Nice symbolic gestures, but lacking substance for the needs of the district or the nation. Another of his bills had to do with cotton futures. I've been all over the district and have yet to see a cotton field in the 13th. Lastly, he sponsored a bill to exempt certain vending machines from using the $1 Susan B. Anthony coin. GovTrack.us ranks David Scott among the least effective members of Congress. He recently voted against a tax reduction plan that is putting money into the pockets of those in our community, and he voted for the deficit-busting budget. I promise to vote no on any continuing resolution budgets. The only way for Congress to gain control over the swamp is to control the money we send to it. It's time for solutions and not symbols in the 13th District. This time, let's vote our values. Thank you. I'm David Callahan, candidate for Georgia's 13th Congressional District.